Hello, hello, and welcome to Temple of the False Pod, where our decks are not optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. I'm Andy.
I am Bruce.
Welcome to the season finale of season 5. We're back at it again, recording at home. Thank you.
I've been recording at home the whole time.
I guess that's true. You know, safety precautions, just, figured do this from home and do it. I was going to say without shoes on, but I always do it without shoes on.
I have slippers on right now. So.
I get to do it with my best friend Frankie.
Nice.
He's running around here somewhere.
I get to podcast with my best friend Andy.
Oh yeah, my best friend's Bruce. Welcome to the season finale. Got a good one for you. As mentioned last week. Every season we finish off with a nice big ol' theme deck. We pick a theme, and then going into the last week, we build a deck. Ta-da! This week's theme, this season's theme, in celebration, I guess, to our eventual return to Kamigawa, our theme is Kamigawa. I believe it's 1 month from today. Today being the date of release of this episode.
Basically, we knew Kamigawa. We knew Neon Dynasty was coming up. And we thought, we want to do a little something Kamigawa. We obviously didn't know the cards yet and thought, we don't need to know the cards. We just go with the old stuff. So that's what we did. And I will say there's also, as far as following the theme, I think we both held to it pretty well. I did cheat with a few cards that weren't part of the block, but were sort of Kamigawa anyway. Cards. Well, I mean, obviously there are some cards that don't fit the theme at all because hey, we're not going to build an entire commander deck based on 3 sets of cards. But something like Tamiyo the Moon Sage, she is not from Kamigawa block, but she is from the plane of Kamigawa, so I thought, you know what, that fits. It works.
Yeah.
Kinda, sorta.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a loose theme that I don't think either one of us expected to stick to it fully. We did our best. Maybe, I don't know. We did something.
Well, I mean, Midnight Clock is in the deck that I built. Nothing to do with Kamigawa, but seemed like a good idea. I liked it. I wanted to put it in, so I did. So go click the links, and you'll see what we've done, and you'll see that we're pretty close. And as we get into talking about the decks, it'll be pretty obvious that I think both of us have held pretty true to the theme. So
yeah. You know what? Let's just get right into it. Sure. Bruce, your deck is based around Meloku, the Clouded Mirror. 4 and a blue, 2/4, legendary creature, Moonfolk Wizard. Flying for 1 mana and return a land you control to its owner's hand. Create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. So
the reason I chose Meloku for a whole bunch of reasons, but primarily, I have the card, and I've had it for quite a while, and I've built other decks around it. And actually, this deck is it's loosely formed around a 60 card deck that I had built with a similar theme. The idea, I wanted to focus on Meloku's ability, the idea of returning a land you control to the owner's hand to get something. So in Meloku's case, you get a creature token. However, there's a whole bunch of other creatures in Kamigawa. They're all blue, and they all have this ability. So it's, spend some mana, return some lands to your hand, you get to do something. What I noticed as I was putting the deck together was that most of these were Moonfolk. So I started thinking, Moonfolk, that sounds like a good theme. I'm going to do Moonfolk because it's weird, it's a little off, and to be fair, most moonfolk really aren't that powerful. So I thought, it'll work out. This will be fine. And then realized, if I'm going to really use Moloku's ability and build around this whole idea, let's go with illusions too. And quickly discovered that illusions play almost no part in Kamigawa, but forget it, I'm doing it anyway. So I've got a few illusions in there and sort of went down that road. Now, is this an illusion deck? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. We're definitely focused on the moonfolk and their abilities a whole lot more than the illusions. But when you're picking through Kamigawa cards, especially when you're just looking at the blue ones, you're sort of going to end up on a general, like, I really struggled to stay away from making this just blue good stuff from Kamigawa deck. And in the end, I think I mostly succeeded, but the deck doesn't look like most of the decks that I would build. So there's a lot of standard blue stuff that just doesn't generally show up in my decks. So where should we start?
It's a very good question. Moonfolk. We've got, obviously, Tamio.
Right.
Tell me more, I guess.
Well, most of the moonfolk tends to be, I think Soratami is generally the brand of moonfolk that you see in most of Kamigawa. So they all have various abilities. So I'm going to look under the card draw stack for now. Soratami Seer, it's a 2/3 flyer for 5, which is really promising. And then you spend 4 and return 2 lands you control to your hand. And then you get to discard your hand and draw that many cards.
Including those 2 lands.
Yes. So you've drawn those, you've made your hand from, well, we're blue. So let's assume you already had 7. You made it 9, and now you're discarding all 9 and drawing 9. So that can be fairly effective.
4 is a lot.
4 is a ton. And, well, there's a reason the ramp package is as big as it is. There's a reason Hearthstone is in this deck, like it seems to show up in a lot of my decks. There's a reason Training Grounds is here. Neither of those really help with Moloku, because Moloku's activation cost is only 1, but you'll find that most of the Soratami have an activation cost of roughly 2, so it does help there. Like I've got Soratami Cloud Skater, again, a 1/1 flyer, this one only for 2. You spend 2, return a land, you can return 1 land, and then you draw a card and discard, so you loot. So obviously, I can run through a bunch of these, but so those 2 are there. Who else? Uyo the Silent Prophet, or Uyo Silent Prophet. She's not the Silent Prophet. A legendary creature, costs 6. It's a 4/4 with flying. Spend 2, return 2 lands. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, and you can choose new targets for the copy. So once it's already out there, that's some of the cheapest copy or copy/steal effects you can find. So I think that's promising. But there's and there's a bunch of these out there.
I like the Soratami Cloud Chariot. It's a 5-mana artifact, and it has 2 abilities. Both cost 2. Generic. 1 says target creature you control gains flying until end of turn, which obviously always helpful. And because there's no tap in the ability, you can just do it to any and all creatures that you want to, as long as you can pay for it. Same with the second ability, which says prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and by target creature you control this turn.
Right.
Which also seems pretty great for, like, if you want to do like an alpha strike, you activate the second one for the things that get blocked. What is like the like through line with this deck? Like, what is like, obviously there's the theme of moonfolk and illusions and spirits and stuff, but like what's like the ideal way, the win con, that's the word.
The win con, essentially, it's tough. The win con is primarily illusions,
Okay.
which is, as I said, that's a tough way to go. The idea is that you're going to be able to create enough illusions that you are going to be able to do enough flying damage to get through. Like I said, this is why I'd like to lean a little harder into the illusions. But between illusions and most of the cards in the deck are creatures. Yeah, so only 20. There are 27 creatures in the deck, and so you're going to win. You're going to win through creature damage. There's not many other ways to pull it off. There's a number of ways to pump your creatures, and another, for the most part, you're going to play blue. Keep your head down, counter when you need to, and look for that. Look for opportunities to mess with the other stuff. There are a lot of ways to copy spells or steal creatures in the deck as well. So I suspect many times that's how you're going to make your way to find your way to victory with this deck, is you're going to be stealing somebody else's way to victory. So we go that way. In the illusion package, there's Krovikan Mist. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of illusions on the battlefield. There's Lord of the Unreal, where the illusions get +1/+1 and hexproof. There's Min, Wily Illusionist. Whenever you draw your second card of each turn, get a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with the creature gets +1/+0 for each other illusion you control. So
nice.
That powers up real quick. And then there's Onirophage, a 1/2 flying illusion. It's a squid illusion. When you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Onirophage. So that's another way to sort of get around things a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. Like, the illusions obviously work well with a lot of your card draw. And I think your illusions especially work well. I think Lord of the Unreal kind of holds things in place, especially where you have Kira, Great Glass Spinner in your deck, which is for 1 blue and blue, 2/2 flying. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time in a turn, counter that spell or ability. So like, if you have Lord of the Unreal out, it just kind of adds to the protection of it all.
If you're trying to deal with either Krovikan Mist or, say, Onirophage, you've got to deal with Lord of the Unreal first, and it's going to take 2 spells to make that happen. And then you got to have come up with 2 more. Then you have to come up with 2 more spells to take one of those 2 out. So it really piles up. Kira the Great Glass Spinner is miserable in some of the better decks that I've seen, and it's right out of Kamigawa blocks. So how can you not put it in?
I like Stormtide Leviathan, classic in mono blue.
And
pain to deal with.
And if the focus is illusions that are blue creatures that fly, this gets around that completely. And I will say, almost all the moonfolk also fly. It just, so most of the creatures that are in the deck can already fly. So I thought I would.
Card draw package seems pretty sweet for mono blue.
The card draw package worked out pretty well, actually. I wanted to talk about Azami, Lady of Scrolls, just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a card everybody knows. It's from Kamigawa block, so it fits the theme. And it was tap an untapped wizard you control, draw a card. Like, oh, okay, well, this is Moonfolk, and it is illusions. But you'll note that there are a lot of Moonfolk wizards, including the commander. And the commander doesn't need to tap to do the ability, and neither do most of my creatures. So you might not want to tap them on your turn, because then they can't block. But if they're blocking and about to die, you can certainly tap them and draw a card and get a bonus card out of it.
It seems like from a quick count, it seems like you've got 11 wizards, which is, a third to half of your creatures.
Right, and that turned out to be way more than I was expecting it would be. Because honestly, when I put Azami in there, my thought was, well, let's see how many, if I can get like 4 or 5, then I'm going to be happy. Because
Right.
Azami herself is a wizard. So my
Right.
thought was, worst case scenario, I tap her and
She's
draw a
tapping
card.
herself, yeah.
I'll take that. That was fine. And the 2 and blue as your mana cost didn't, that doesn't hurt an all blue deck. So I thought I would give it a shot. And then, so it turns out I've got way more wizards than I was expecting to find. So I don't think the deck is going to have too many issues as far as drawing cards. Honden of the Seeing Winds. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card for each shrine you control. There's only one shrine. It's all by itself, but that's fine. Again, black will play Phyrexian Arena, where they're paying a life to draw a card every upkeep. I'm getting it for free. I mean, it costs 5 to put out, but we're going to talk about the extra land drop package shortly, and I don't think that getting to 6 mana is going to be that difficult. So,
yeah. It's the staying at 6 mana is the difficult part.
Yeah, it's the staying at 6 lands is going to be the real trick. I also include Kami of the Crescent Moon. So
classic.
Classic Howling Mine deal. Another legendary creature, another blue creature from Kamigawa. So seems good.
While we're talking about extra land drops, Girper Ori is a card that you don't see very often. Or at least I have not. Seems like a pretty sweet card.
This was a card that I really didn't pay a lot of attention to, but so many of the abilities on the creatures in this deck involve returning land to your hand. And as we all know, until we're at like 10, nobody really wants to actually return a land to their hand, because you want the land out to do stuff, to cast spells. So, and I don't want to wait until that late in the game, until I'm willing to return some lands. So I started looking at ways to play more than one land per turn, because if I'm going to return a land to my hand to get a 1/1 blue flyer, I need to have a way to get that land back out. Right. So I did a search, and Girper Orrery was one of the cards that popped up. So it's a 4-mana artifact. It says each player may play an additional land on each of his or her turns. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, that player draws 3 cards. So I'm almost never going to get that second ability. But
almost nobody's going to.
Right. But my thought was the ability to play an extra land is going to be key. There's just so many cards in my deck that want me to put a land back in my hand. I can definitely see why folks like to pair white with this, because white has so many abilities that, if you have less lands out than somebody else, do something. There's so many land tax style ways of adding land that I can see why people like running these sorts of cards with white, just because it allows you to get caught up a little bit. But so anyways, that was Girper Orrery.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have to help me with this card. I kind of understand how it works, but it's Patron of the Moon. It's 5 blue, 5/4, legendary creature, spirit.
Yes.
Has flying, and for 1, you put up to 2 land cards from your hand into play tapped.
Yes.
Which is sweet, because instant speed, you can do it, right before it becomes your turn and you untap.
Yeah.
But it has Moonfolk Offering. So in Kamigawa, there was a cycle of offering cards. I've got one in my deck, which we will see. It says Moonfolk Offering. You may play this card anytime you could play an instant by sacrificing a Moonfolk and paying the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrificed Moonfolk. Mana cost includes color.
Yes.
Seems like a lot of text, but it seems rather straightforward, right?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
If you have, I'm going to say Soratami Rainshaper, it costs 2 and a blue. So if you sacrifice that Moonfolk, and then I would be able to reduce this 7 mana cost by 3. So instead of paying 5 blue, I would pay 3 blue.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 blue
Yes.
for this.
Yeah. And you could do that at instant speed, which is also pretty nuts for a 7 mana cost
Yes.
card. Interesting. Okay.
The nice part with this one is the ability to put 2 land cards from your hand into play tapped. You don't have to tap to do that.
Yeah.
So if I pay it a second time, I could put 2 more lands out. And you say to yourself, well, how often are you going to have 4 lands in hand? Well, okay.
When you bounce 4 lands to your hand.
Well, this is just it. So if I've got Uyo's Silent Prophet, I can spend 2, return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand, copy the target instant or sorcery spell. I may choose new targets for the copy. Okay, so I tap 2 lands, return those tapped lands back to my hand, copy the instant or sorcery. Great. Now I'm going to spend 1 more and put those 2 lands back into play tapped.
Oh, yeah. So you're really only spending 3 generally.
Right. Now they're tapped, but in theory, you can do all of that fast enough that if you want to copy a target, copy that instant or sorcery twice, then you could tap 2 other lands, bring those back to your hand, spend 1 more, and swing out the Patron. It costs 6, but you get 2 copies of the spell. So if somebody is playing some kind of monster spell, or let's say somebody's playing Brass's Bounty, you want in on some of that, so you can play it and copy it twice, or copy your own spell if you want to. Bounce things twice, or whatever you want. But that's just Uyo, right? There are other options as well. So, there's all sorts of things. There's a couple of cards that have landfall.
Okay.
Because that just makes sense. But
yeah, absolutely.
There isn't a lot of blue landfall. So, obviously, Royal Elemental is the big one. So, but Royal Elemental and Patron of the Moon, things are going to get ugly. I'm going to take a lot of creatures.
Yeah, especially where, you're going to take a lot of creatures. I mean, it's got a great steal and copy package with, obviously, Rite of Replication, a commander staple. Beguiler of Wills is a creature that I've never seen before.
No?
Yeah.
Now, Beguiler of Wills doesn't fit the Kamigawa package. But
it's fine.
A 1/1 for 5 tap, gain control of target creature with a power less than or equal to the number of creatures you control.
Oh, interesting.
Or my thought when I put it in was, if I'm running illusions, even if I get 3 illusions, they're probably going to be 2/1 illusions or 2/2 illusions. That's 6 plus Beguiler of Wills is 1. So now I'm looking at a 7/7 creature. I don't think it would take too much effort to suddenly find that you have the ability to take anything with this card.
Yeah. That's sweet.
Sorry, it's equal to the number of creatures you control, not their power. But
yeah,
same idea. I mean, I was thinking about the illusions, but
I guess to wrap up your deck, what are you thinking of if you were to make this into a paper deck? Beyond just this exercise, what are you thinking of adding or taking out? Or
I think it's more a case of what I'm going to take out. Umezawa's Jitte is in the deck because it's Kamigawa and fits theme. Because hey, Kamigawa. However, it costs $30, and it does great things, but I'm not that big a slave to the theme that I feel like I have to spend the money on that. So I would probably drop that as one of the cards. The difficulty I have right now is that I just don't know. Like, I haven't bought the deck in paper, so I can't tell you. Turns out my removal package is too big, or turns out my ramp package is just hot garbage, and I need to improve it. So I don't know that yet. I'm leaning heavily on the whole idea of illusions, but the illusion package probably isn't big enough to really be doing that. So it may turn out that, I'm leaning on something that really isn't there. I think the deck needs a number of a number of playthroughs before I can start to pick and choose which card should come out. And it also decides, how tightly do I want to stay with the theme. I'm not going to pretend that Moonfolk are a super powerful tribe, and you can dominate with this. They're not, but they're fun. And if you're looking for a deck that has lots of little twisty knobs, so I do this thing, I do that thing, I do this, I do this, I do this, I adjust this, I turn this, I have all these choices and decide to do this or this and go here, then I think this deck is great.
So Midnight Clock is more on theme than you actually thought.
Yeah, it turns out I think so. But yeah, there's I think for a lot of these spots, especially stuff if forgetting about the Kamigawa cards, there's a bunch of cards that aren't on theme where you could probably swap them out for something else. Like I said, Midnight Clock is in there because I liked it and I like the way it was set up. But if you take it out and put it in a Sky Diamond, or take it out and put it in a Felwar Stone, I'm not going to be shocked. That would probably be a better choice. But I liked where it was, and I wanted it to sort of fit to theme a little bit. So when Dreamscape Artist is one of the cards in your ramp package, your ramp package is probably not optimized by any stretch of the imagination. So
who wants to optimize it anyway?
Well, exactly. I'm just going to wrap real quick. I had a bunch of cards that I sort of wanted to put in the deck, so I put them in what Architect likes to refer to as the maybe board. Sensei's Divining Top is cute, and should go in every deck that needs where you want to optimize your draws. However, again, speaking of cards that cost way too much money, it's right there.
$70.
Yeah. I chose Hall the Bandit Lord mostly because I wanted another Kamigawa card. The idea of tapping it and paying 3 life to get 1 mana, man, that is just a tough pill to swallow for me. And I'm just not really sure that, giving my creature haste, especially in this deck, is really going to be the game changer. So it's there, but probably not going to run it. And then there's a few other cards. Like, I think I'd like Caged Sun in the deck, but I started moving things around and decided that 6 mana was just more than I was willing to pay. So
I think Caged Sun is actually probably key in this deck, considering you are bouncing all these lands to your hand. It kind of keeps you at that equilibrium of needing enough mana to do things.
Right, because it's going to make the land that I've got that much more valuable. So
no, this seems sweet. Do you think we're gonna get a reprint of the top?
Of
if not just
Divining Top?
Yeah.
If there's going to be a reprint of Sensei's Divining Top, it's going to have to come in one of the
like a Secret Lair.
Well, I wasn't even thinking Secret Lair. I was thinking something along the line of another like a Commander Legends style or Modern Horizons kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's where it would have to come in, and I don't know. I would think that they'd have done it by now. I know that Wizards doesn't like it for tournaments because it slows down gameplay so badly.
That's fair.
And there's a lot of people that don't like it in Commander because it slows down gameplay. So.
I was listening to something and they were talking about how Mark Rosewater said that it was a mistake, and they posited the idea that maybe there will be something similar or like referring to it in Neon Dynasty. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, a fixed version of the card would be great, considering it does something good, and if it does it slightly less good for a whole lot less money, I'm down.
Yeah, and I'm looking like we're both going to say this for both of these decks. I'm looking forward to Neon Dynasty and seeing if it can fill some of the gaps and improve and obviously improve the deck. Remember, we're talking about a set that came out a long time ago where creatures were significantly underpowered in comparison to today. So I would be curious to see what a moonfolk would look like today. You know, would it return one land to your hand, copy target instant sorcery spell 25 times? I don't know. But I'll be curious to see how it goes and how I can up the power level and see if I can't come up with some more cool and interesting interactions. So,
is there any other card you wanted to highlight real quick?
No.
All right.
There's a whole bunch here. Please check it out. Take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna throw it over to our sponsor real quick. But when we come back, we'll talk about the deck that I built for our Kamigawa theme. It's a whole lot of fun. But we'll be right back. Sit tight. Don't go anywhere, Bruce.
Okay.
This episode of Temple of Falspot is brought to you by the well-timed Red Elemental Blast. Who loves countering counters? Do you? Then have I got the card for you. Red Elemental Blast will get your spells down because you can counter a counter. Red Elemental Blast. Play it. Do it. I dare you. It's 1 red mana. Yeah, that's all I got. Now back to you. Hey, welcome back. We're here with our season finale. We're talking about Kamigawa theme decks. Mine started on theme. I'd say it's 50-50. It's fun. It's mono red, so of course it's fun. My commander is Hamura, Human Ascendant for 4 red. They're a 4/4. They can't block. And if they're put into a graveyard from play, return it to play flipped. Their flipped side, so it's like one of the rotate 180, is Hamura's Essence. Creatures you control get +2/+2 in flying. And they get, for red, just red, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Essentially, they give all of your creatures +2/+2 flying and fire breathing, turning them all into dragons. Essentially, it's beautiful. So, as a quick thing, this deck intends for you to do that, get it flipped, and then immediately start stealing your opponent's creatures and flying them into them.
But
then,
Andy, I have a question.
Please.
How will you ever flip Homura if it can't block? You'll just swing and no one will block. They'll just take 4. It will be fine.
Beautiful.
For them.
If that's the case, great. But with that, with also the kind of the steely theme is like a sack to a throw creatures. You've got your fling type effects. I've got
a few.
11. Yeah, I've got 11 in my sack outlet stack. Granted, this includes Ashen Odds Altar, but if you're stealing stuff, might as well not give it back. You've got your staples like Fling, Goblin Bombardment, which kind of led me toward more of a Goblin theme as well. Like that's like a second, like a sub theme, I guess, is Goblins, because Goblins ended up doing what I wanted them to do.
Yeah, and there were a lot of Goblins in Kamigawa.
The Aki were a pretty cool flavor of Goblins that I really wanted to embrace in this deck. The original, when I had started building this commander deck, I don't remember who was my original. I don't even think they're in this deck anymore. Just because, I think I got this deck up to 120-ish cards, and I had to knock it back down. But it's very Goblin based. So obviously for throwing, my throwing category, I also have Goblin Grenade, just because 5 damage for a simple 1 mana
Yeah.
and sack a simple 1/1 goblin is pretty great. I like Thud because it's cheaper than Fling, even if it's at sorcery speed. Generally, you're going to be using these things at sorcery speed anyway, because you'll have stolen something first combat or first main phase, attacked with it during combat, and then second main phase you sack it and Fling, Thud, Goblin Bombardment, etc.
So I gotta say, I had never seen Thud before, and
I love Thud.
So when I came on, when I was going through your list, I see this card for 1 mana called Thud, and I'm like, what the heck? And yeah, it's exactly what you've described. It's sorcery speed, and the picture, it's this innocent little goblin looking down, not looking up at this thing that's about to completely crush him. This is a great card. I appreciate that it's sorcery speed, so there's some limitations there. You get to do the damage to any target. It costs 1 red. This is what you're looking for, and I think that's going to be spectacular, especially considering you're not going to be stealing somebody else's 1/1. So,
Yeah.
You're going to take their big creatures and fling them, or I guess thud them.
Or, in the case of Surtland Flinger, which is one of the newer, I guess, cards in this deck, it's a 3 red, 4/6 giant berserker. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. Generally, it's going to be, somebody else's creature. When you do, Surtland Flinger deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. So it's the fling idea.
Yeah.
If sacrificed creature was a giant, it deals twice that much damage instead.
Right.
Which, you're never relying on, but it's there if you need it. But I love that, I've got artifacts, I've got enchantments, I've got instants, I've got sorceries, all trying to make you get rid of your creatures. It's wonderful. I also had to take a moment to add in some creatures that were just big in case I wasn't able to get to those like steely effects.
Yeah.
So like I've got Ashen Monstrosity, which is a 7/4 with haste and it attacks each turn if able.
Yeah.
I've got Adamaro, First to Desire, which is big if your opponents have a lot of cards. If you're playing against somebody with blue or green, it's probably going to be, generally going to be probably at least 7.
Right.
And then I've got Patron of the Aki, Aki, which is one of the offering creatures. It's a 4 red for 5/5 goblin offering, so you can play it at flash speed by sacrificing a goblin and paying the difference in mana costs. So, goblins are generally lower cost, but, most of these are 3-4-ish. So you're going to get Patron of the Aki probably around 3-4-ish. Maybe even down to 2. Maybe just generic colored. Granted, this deck only uses red, so it doesn't really matter. But when it attacks, creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn, which also made me realize, like, oh yeah, the other side of this commander gives my creatures flying, which wonderful. All my creatures are just always flying. And they've got fire breathing.
Right.
So I've got, I've got other ways to pump things up. I've got Trumpet Blast, which is just a great, if you're finishing somebody off. I've got Torbrand, which just adds 2 damage to any red source that I have. I've got Captive Flame, which is just an enchantment that is kind of targeted fire breathing.
Yeah.
In case I don't have the enchantment out.
Sure,
or
and
just
most
in
of the
addition.
time when you can pick and choose which of your creatures get fire breathing, that's
Right.
kind of what you're essentially getting. Homura's essence anyway.
Yeah.
Just because that way you can pick the one that's being blocked and kill their creature if you need to. You can pick the one that gets through, crank up the damage.
Yeah.
when you've got Captive Flame and your captain and your commander, well, now suddenly they have to block.
Yeah.
They're going to be dead quick otherwise. So
I think Captive Flame is a little redundant in this deck, but I think overall it probably doesn't need to be in the deck, but it's fine for what it is. But like, all of these things require a lot of mana. I have 40 land in the deck, which generally is more than enough for a very aggro red deck.
Yeah.
Especially where I've got Ashnod's Altar, I've got Soul Ring in the deck. But with the Fire Breathing technique, you need even more mana. So I've got things like Treasonous Ogre, which, you pay 3 life to add a red, which adds up quickly. But if you need it, you need it. If you need that last little bit left. I've got Thermopod, which is a 4/3 for 5. It's a slug, snow creature. And for snow, it gets haste until end of turn. So snow can be paid with 1 mana from any snow permanent. Or 1 mana, from a snow permanent. And then sacrifice a creature to add red to your mana pool, which, notably, is red snow mana. You can give itself haste by sacrificing a creature. Skirk Prospector, 1/1 for 1. Sacrifice Goblin to add red. Great. You're going to be creating probably a lot of goblins. I've got 14 goblins, and that's not including Siege. I mean, it's including Siege Gang Commander, but Siege Gang Commander creates more goblins.
Right.
I guess also I've got Krark Clan Stoker, no relation, for 2 and a red. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, add red to your mana pool. It's a 2/2. It is a goblin if you want to sack it for Thermopod or whatever.
So Andy, when we were talking about the deck before we went on, I was commenting that Ashnod's Altar and Soul Ring were the only artifacts that you had. So I wasn't sure if Krark Clan Stoker made any sense. I know that Feldon makes artifact creatures, and I think you're just about to start talking about Brass's Bounty. So
Feldon makes artifact creatures, which is great because again, you have to sacrifice those anyway. So like, if you've got Krark Clan Stoker out and you just need a little bit of mana, great. Brass's Bounty creates a bunch of treasures, so you can essentially tap Krark Clan Stoker to make one of those treasures add 2 red instead. And then the other side of Burgi is also an artifact. Granted, you probably don't want to necessarily...
You're not looking to sack the Harnfell Horn of Bounty, but...
I have that under more mana stack, but honestly, Harnfell Horn of Bounty, I've found in the ways that I've played, Harnfell is probably a better choice to play over Burgi because you're not generally playing a lot of spells per turn in this deck. So Harnfell generally would more belong in some sort of card draw pile, which I don't have in here. But you can take a look at my threaten effects. I've got Active Aggression, Active Treason, Besmirch, Blind with Anger, Captivating Crew, Grab the Reins, Kari Zev's Expertise, Molten Primordial, Threaten, and Word of Seizing. All of them essentially say, target a creature, take it, untap it, give it haste. Except for Grab the Reins, which is one of my favorites. It was a card that I found out about through our friend, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing one of his decks and came across this card, and I was like, whoa. Not only does it give that creature haste, you can also sacrifice a creature, and Grab the Reins deals damage equal to that creature's power to target creature or player.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you can spend the Entwine cost in addition and do both of them. So no, is just the Entwine cost? I don't know. I guess I don't know how Entwine works. Let's see.
No, you pay both. So
okay.
You Grab the Reins with Entwine is going to cost you 7. So it's 5 red.
So But because they happen in that order, you can, I believe, gain control of somebody else's creature and then immediately sack it to deal damage to any target, which is pretty sweet if you need it. I've got Red Elemental Blast in my Ways to Stay Alive
Let's
package,
talk about Red Elemental Blast for just a second.
Yes, please.
Folks, if you haven't played with Red Elemental Blast, you really should. It is 1 red mana for an instant. I know it says interrupt. Don't worry about that. It's an instant. Counter a blue spell, or destroy a blue permanent. So if you have it as the spell's being cast, you get to counter it. Great! What a wonderful day. You get to hammer at that blue mage, and it only costs you 1 red, and you get to mess with them on their terms, which is just wonderful. However,
you get to counter that awful cyclonic rift that appeared out of nowhere.
Right, that Stormtide Leviathan. You just counter it, and you don't have to deal with any of the fallout from it. However, if you don't have the Red Elemental Blast in hand, well, not a problem. Because, when that Stormtide Leviathan is sitting there causing you issues, well, now you sucker the blue player. Because, hey, check it out, right before the start of my turn, I'm going to play Red Elemental Blast. I'm going to take out your Stormtide Leviathan, and now all my dudes can attack. Yay, red. This is just, it's such a good card. It does not get played enough. Do not kid yourself. Don't pass on this just because it says blue. Trust me, almost every game you play, you're going to be happy to see it. There are so many people playing blue.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's so rare when this is not going to hit, and not hit big. I think.
Yeah, and personally, honestly, like, most of the things I would want to counter are blue, which are generally counters or control magic type effects.
Right. And I love that. And I love that it's counter or destroy the permanent.
Yeah.
Because, like, control magic, it's great to be able to counter it. But, if they're stealing my creature to swing at somebody else, well, you go ahead. Take my creature. You swing at this person. That's wonderful. Are you finished? Oh, good. Now I'll take it back. Because you won't be getting to swing at me.
It makes it ultimately, like, extremely flexible.
Yes.
It's
and
amazing.
For only 1 red. I mean, and you can play it any time. The card is outrageous. It is so good. And yes, I know. It's only good against blue. That's a good thing. You need this, and trust me, you will not be sad that you added this to your deck.
And if you're looking online and you find it's like an expensive card, just get the whiteboarded version. It's $1.
Yeah. They're still stupid cheap, and you can get them all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. I love this card for the things that we've said, and I mean, I'm going to be honest. I have to be very straightforward. They're a sponsor for the episode, so take our word with a grain of salt. But it is an excellent card, and belongs in Ways to Stay Alive, because what this deck really wants you to do is just have the creatures do the creature thing of attack, and then if they die, they die. If not, sacrifice them. So I mean, along the same lines, we've also got Anger to give things haste, Heartless Hidetsugu to just toy with people's life totals, In the Web of War for also haste, Burn Down the House to get rid of the board or create more creatures. I mean, it creates 3 devils or deals 5 damage to each creature or planeswalker.
Andy, let's not wash over In the Web of War.
Okay.
I know that there's a lot of people who aren't real excited about this because it costs 5, and I get that. But with this deck, not only does it give the creatures haste so they can swing immediately, so that the creatures that you steal, if you've stolen a creature and it doesn't get haste from the theft ability, In the Web of War is there to back you up and has got you covered. But more importantly, when a creature comes into play under your control, it gets +2/+0. This is a deck where you're throwing the creatures, and quite often you're throwing a creature based on its power. So even if Aki Drill Master is the card that comes into play, well, now it has haste, and now it's also a 4/2 creature. So you swing in with it, hope to do damage, and if not, no problem. You're just going to fling it anyway. And now you're going to fling it for 4 damage instead of just 2. So all of these little tiny creatures just get so much better and so much bigger. And if you've got Homura's Essence out on top of that, well, that little Drill Master was actually a 4/4 flyer. And you added +2 to it. You made it into a 6/4 flyer, and it only costs 3. It's going to hammer the guy.
Yeah.
And then you can at that point, fling it after combat and do 6 more. I mean,
that's kind of like the basis for why I kind of went down the path of the fling type deck, where it like, because I have these pumpable abilities, like I've got Captive Flame, I've got, Homura and Torbrand or whatever. Like, I kind of went for that idea of like getting things bigger once I did have them, so that when I did fling them, they did more.
Yeah.
Rather than just the normal effect.
Yeah, you can't rely on. I mean, you don't want to be flinging 1/1 and 2/2 creatures and relying on trying to win based on 2 points of damage at a time. This is Commander. That's just not going to be effective. And remember, most of your fling effects are only targeting one player, so you really do need to have plenty and be able to really hammer home with this. And a lot of times you don't even want to use the fling immediately. Hey, I mean, if your creature's still alive, maybe I'll wait another turn before I use the ability, and sort of go that route. So
what I like with In the Web of War, even though it's 5 mana, it's an enchantment.
Yes.
And it is essentially an enchantment version of Ogre Battle Driver, which is 4 mana. So instead of 3 red, it's 2 red on a 3/3 body. Right. So, like, obviously Ogre Battle Driver, extremely easy to take care of. Just lightning bolt it, whatever.
Yeah.
Much harder to deal with an enchantment. So, the 5 mana cost, hardly an issue. I mean, generally speaking. And then, I mean, obviously, this deck can create a lot of mana through its many, many ways. I've got Leyline Tyrant in case I just, like, have a lot of mana building up. Leyline Tyrant says you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end, and that's, turn after turn after turn. If you're just, tapping out at the end of the person before you's turn, you start to have this huge red pool, which is why I've got things like Earthquake in here, in case you just have a higher life total than everybody else. You just Earthquake everyone to death. Or Banefire, which can't be countered if X is 5 or more.
And it's going to be.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right.
The beautiful thing, too, about Leyline Tyrant is that if you do have, your pool full of red mana, if somebody kills it, it has that triggered ability of when it dies, you may pay any amount of red. When you do, it deals that much damage to any target. So it's always a nice, like, revenge plot.
And the nice part with your land package, I think Temple of the False God is the only non-red mana producing land you have. So you're really gonna hammer home.
And if you're looking at this on Architect, you'll notice that Kazul's Fury is in fact it's twofold. It's 1, my 40th land, even though it's a spell, and 2, it's a fling spell. For 2 and a red, sacrifice a creature as an additional cost, deals damage equal to sacrifice creature's power to any target, which is great. So if you've got it, early game, if you have it in your opening hand, just play it as land. You've got other ways to sacrifice things. And if you've got it late game, even better, because then you can use it for the spell side. I
also noted Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, in your land stack. When you're talking 37 mountains, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, absolutely. This is definitely from, like, I had it in my original EDH deck, which was Heartless Hitotsugu. Also makes an appearance in this deck. Also Kamigawa.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh yeah, no, this is a powerful card. If you are looking to play a budget version of this deck, just take that one card out, and the deck comes to $100.
Okay.
That was unintentional, but it did help when I was up to 120 cards and being like, how do I decide what to choose to cut? And,
right.
Generally speaking, the more expensive cards weren't actually helping the deck do its thing. So
I will say, if you're looking to completely blow the budget on this deck, make all of your mountains into snow-covered mountains, and that way Thermopod has the snow mana anytime, and you don't even need to sack a creature.
I'll just draw a snowflake on all my mountains. How about that?
There we go. That'll work.
Just ask your playgroup first, and I mean, honestly, like, snow mountains are terribly expensive, but
at least for 37 of them there are.
Yeah, right. I'm really excited about this deck. It's so funny every time we do this exercise of make a deck for this episode. I get so inspired to want to make more decks and play more, and obviously with the disease, it's been tough to not be able to get together and play in person. And I think especially, we're now on the other side of the holidays and trying to keep safe, and I have so many decks that I just want to try and play, and
and the nice part about this deck is, and I understand there's a significant package that steals creatures, and when you're playing online, using spell table, that generally it can be difficult to do that. But this deck, it steals the creature and sacks it almost right away. So this isn't a case of you having to keep track and write them all down with your write them all down on markers and mark your tokens, and here I'm going to have to use a token that's a copy of your creature. No, here I'm just going to drop this piece of paper. That's your creature. Okay, we can keep track of this for 20 seconds. I'll do my thing. Boom, it's gone. So I think this deck will play very well on spell table.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, I feel like day to day there's a new drama on Twitter, on Magic Twitter, because I mean that's what that site does, is just generate drama. And I think, like, every time we do this exercise, it renews my love for the game, and it renews my excitement for this podcast. And I think, like, overall it ends up being, like, it holds me over for 2 weeks until we start again. It just does amazing things doing this exercise. And if any of you out there have also built a Kamigawa themed deck, or any of the past themes that we've done, I don't know, this is our 5th one. So send us a link, send us a list. We'd love to see them. I know I'll probably at some point be putting this list together in paper for at least a game, just to see how it goes.
Well, yeah, and here's a challenge to the listeners: spread the word about this. Don't even spread the word about our podcast. Spread the word about this particular podcast, because I just took a look, and right now on EDH Rec there are 42 Homura Human Ascendant decks. Let's bring that over 100. Let's bring it over 100. I mean, how hard is this? I mean, this is a cool card. There's all sorts of ways you can mess with this in all kinds of ways. Give it a shot. I mean, this just makes good sense.
Yeah.
Why not? Have fun with it.
Yeah. And I think, like, with my renewed love for this podcast, not that it ever went down, it only goes up with time, because I love doing this. And as with any season, it all comes to an end. Jesus. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Wow. Don't fret. We'll be back February 9th. We've got a cool season coming up for you. It's all going to be about casual Magic. Amazing how this podcast thing works. Share us with your friends. We'd love to hear from more people about their experience with low-powered casual Magic, whether it's 60 card or Commander. Because we're Temple of False Pod, where our decks are not optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. My name is Andy.
I am Bruce.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope to see from you many a deck, many card. Let us know what you think. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night. May your 5th land be the Temple.
Bye!
Wait. Before you go, I just wanted to say thank you for listening. You can reach out to us via email at falsepodmtg@gmail.com or on Twitter @falsepodmtg. Bruce is @manaburned, and I'm @AndyWeekend, though you'll definitely notice I use the podcast Twitter far more often. Now that we've got you here, make sure you subscribe, rate us on whatever podcast platform you use. It helps us out. It gets us more reach. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Like a video there. Leave some comments for more casual enjoyment. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with some more timeless discussions about all things casual. So come hang out, and may your 5th land be the Temple. Bye-bye. Should I do my best, Bruce? Bye!